Okay, picture this. A triple murder rocks Sweden. You've got this incredibly smart but really elusive suspect.
And a whole mess of secrets, right? Like
Oh,
reaching way up high into society, it's tangled.
exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into that whole story, these murders, and this, well, extraordinary woman at the center of it all.
It's quite the narrative. Our sources really paint a picture, starting with the murders themselves. Two journalists working on a huge story about sex trafficking.
Right. And then a lawyer seemingly unconnected.
That's the initial puzzle, yeah. So our mission for you today is to kind of unpack all these different accounts, connect the dots because they do connect, surprisingly.
And figure out how this one specific police report, like a really old classified one, suddenly becomes the absolute key to everything.
Precisely. It's the linchpin. So let's get into it.
Okay, where do we start? The discovery.
Yeah, let's start there. It really is an incredible story. So it kicks off on a Sunday morning back in March. This journalist, Mikael Blomkvist, a pretty well-known guy.
The Millennium journalist.
That's him. He finds something, well, truly horrific.
Oh.
Yeah, in this apartment in Enskede. He finds the bodies of Dag Svensson, another freelance journalist, and Mia Johansson, who's a criminologist.
Found them himself. Wow.
And they were.
Brutally murdered. Shot in the head. The sources talk about ghastly wounds, apparently from hunting ammunition. It's grim.
Hunting ammunition.
Yeah.
That's specific. And these two, Svensson and Johansson, what were they working on that was so sensitive?
Okay, so they were literally on the verge of publishing this massive expose for Millennium magazine. It was called From Russia with Love.
Catchy title. What was it about?
Detailing a huge sex trafficking ring. And crucially, naming names. Threatening to expose corrupt officials, powerful figures, the Johns involved, the whole network.
So high stakes.
Extremely high stakes. And Mia's dissertation was tied into this too, focused on trafficking, organized crime, and society's response. This wasn't just journalism, it was academic research backing it up. They were about to blow the lid off something big.
Right. Someone clearly didn't want that story published. You got it. And things move fast. Within hours, the police, led by Inspector Jan Bublonsky, they get a lead. A huge one.
Already, how?
Forensics. Leonard Granlund at the National Forensics Lab confirms the murder weapon is a Colt .45 Magnum. And crucially, fingerprints.
On the gun.
On the gun. And they match a woman born April 30th, 1978. Someone they actually had on file from an assault charge in '95. Lisbeth Salander.
Lisbeth Salander, but she's immediately a suspect.
Not just a suspect. Because almost at the same time they find someone else dead. Niels Bierman, a lawyer.
Okay, connection.
Is the registered owner of the murder weapon, the Colt .45, and he's also been shot dead in his apartment.
Oh, wow. So now Salander's fingerprints are on the gun that killed its owner and the two journalists?
Exactly. Suddenly, she's the prime suspect in 3 murders. Triple homicide.
And the media must have gone absolutely wide.
Exploded immediately. Painting her as this, psychotic mass murderer, mentally handicapped, violent. They dug up old psychiatric reports, everything they could find.
It's amazing how fast that happens. So what was the image they were selling? Our sources describe her physically, right?
Yeah, very specifically. 4'11", slim, angular, asymmetrical face, new breast implants, apparently, and this huge dragon tattoo on her back.
Quite a distinct look.
And the passport photo they circulated showed staring eyes, her mouth compressed to a thin line. It just fed this narrative of a, quote, retarded asocial killer. Really dehumanizing stuff.
But that's the public image. What about the people who actually knew her? That's often where the real story lies, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is where it gets fascinating. You get these completely conflicting pictures. Her old boss, Dragan Armansky at Milton Security, he calls her the best researcher I've ever had.
High praise.
Tremendously skilled, he says, but also irritating, inflexible, and unlike anyone I've ever met. He just can't believe she'd be involved in a double murder.
There's a but, isn't there?
Yeah, he does admit she's capable of excessive force, especially against people who cross her or offend her moral code, whatever that might be.
Yeah. Okay, so brilliant, difficult, potentially forceful. What about Blomkvist, the journalist who found the bodies? He knew her too.
He did. They'd worked together before. And he's absolutely convinced she's innocent. Calls her a very lonely and odd person, socially introverted, sure.
But with her own code?
Exactly. Her own particular moral standards. He even says she literally saved his life on a previous case. He sees something completely different from the headlines.
And there are others too, right? Miriam Wu.
Yeah, Miriam Wu, Mimi. She lives in Salander's apartment, or was living there. She gives a more personal perspective, describes Salander as bisexual, definitely not a whore like some might imply given the context.
Okay.
And she adds this great detail, calls Salander the most tone-deaf person I've ever met.
Huh. So much for the police theory about her being in a hard-rocking lesbian Satanist band.
Right. Mimi just shuts that down completely.
Yeah.
It shows how wild the speculation was getting.
It really does. And wasn't there a boxer involved somehow? Paolo Roberto?
Yes. Paolo Roberto. He actually fought Salander well, sparred with her, maybe more accurately survived her. He talks about her Terminator mode.
Terminator mode.
Yeah, he said she bashed at me as if her life was at stake. Just absolutely relentless, uncompromising. It paints a picture of someone incredibly intense, focused, and potentially dangerous if pushed.
So definitely not the simple psychotic killer narrative. Way more complex, formidable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to really understand why she's like that, you have to look at her past. It's intense, forged in trauma, but also sheer brilliance.
Trauma how?
Well, the sources talk about extreme trauma in her childhood, flashbacks, being imprisoned, hating this man whose touch felt moist, horrible stuff.
God, yeah.
And there's this one specific, really disturbing memory. Her, as a child, pouring gasoline into a car, lighting it, screams the smell of burned flesh.
Jesus, how old was she?
12. This is the act they called All the Evil.
All the Evil at 12 years old. That explains a lot, potentially. What happened after that?
That led directly to her being committed. St. Stephen's Children's Psychiatric Clinic outside Uppsala. She was there for over 2 years.
Institutionalized as a child.
Yeah. One source mentions her 13th birthday. She was strapped to the bed. Just a grim picture. And her psychiatrist there, Dr. Peter Teleborian, he declared her legally incompetent.
Incompetent. But Armansky said she was brilliant.
Exactly. Teleborian argued she needed permanent institutional care, not just guardianship. Later, he actually calls the decision not to keep her locked up indefinitely a scandal that led to these murders. He blames the system for letting her out.
Convenient. How did Salander see him?
She thought Teleborian was utterly vile, a loathsome and disgusting sadist, someone who, in her eyes, outclassed Bjurman by a mile in terms of cruelty.
Bjurman again, the lawyer who was murdered, who owned the gun. He became her guardian after the institution.
Eventually, yes. Niels Bjurman became her state-appointed guardian. And our sources are clear. He sexually assaulted her.
Right. But she fought back, didn't she, in a pretty extreme way?
Oh, yeah. She didn't just report him. She took matters into her own hands.
Tattooed him.
Tattooed him with what?
I am a sadistic pig, a pervert, and a rapist.
Huh?
Brown his stomach. And she filmed it.
Filmed it.
Yeah.
Wow, so she had proof. Leverage.
Huge leverage, which becomes very important later. But think about the contrast. The system declares her incompetent, mentally handicapped.
But she's pulling off things like that.
Yeah.
And the intellectual side.
Right. That's the other side. The supposed handicapped woman taught herself advanced mathematics. Like, devoured this massive textbook, Dimensions in Mathematics.
A 1,200-page Bible of math. Seriously.
Seriously. And got obsessed with Fermat's last theorem. You know, the problem that stumped mathematicians for centuries.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
For her, it wasn't just about finding the answer. It was the process of solution itself that fascinated her. The analysis, the deep thinking.
That tells you a lot about how her mind works. Analytical, driven.
And that ties into her other major skill, hacking. She is an elite-level hacker, uses programs like Asphyxia, a great name, to get into computer systems, including Blomkvist's computer.
Including Blomkvist's.
Yeah.
She uses it to keep tabs on what's happening, the investigation.
Mm.
And maybe even to nudge him in certain directions.
Yeah.
Subtly guiding things from the shadows.
Resourceful doesn't even begin to cover it. And financially, the media painted her as unstable, but she wasn't struggling, was she?
Not at all. She spent a year traveling Caribbean, Asia, became, quote, financially independent. How? Sources aren't totally clear, probably related to her hacking skills, maybe some clever investments.
Enough to buy a luxury apartment in Stockholm.
For 25 million kroner, paid in cash.
Cash, okay, so not exactly living hand to mouth.
Definitely not. She even had a fake identity, Irene Nesser, for travel and other, let's say, discreet activities. This is not the picture of a mentally handicapped person the public was being sold. It's someone incredibly capable, intelligent, and independent.
Okay, so we have this incredibly complex picture of Salander. Traumatized, brilliant, resourceful, maybe morally ambiguous. But the murders, how does she connect to this wider web? Let's talk about Svensson's research again.
Right, because Salander's story, as intense as it is, intersects with something much bigger. Svensson's work, From Russia with Love,
Bruh.
wasn't just about random trafficking. It exposed a network.
Drugs, weapons, the whole deal.
Exactly. Trafficking, drugs, guns. And he had a list. Prominent people, a civil servant in the Ministry of Justice, lawyers, other journalists.
So systemic corruption.
Yeah, and he made a distinction between the sort of low-level guys running the day-to-day sex trade, brutal and sadistic losers, he called them, and a more organized sex mafia pulling the strings higher up.
And this is where Zala comes in, this mysterious name from Svensson's notes.
Precisely, Zala. That name turns out to be critical. Blomkvist digs into this, talks to a guy named Gunnar Bjork,
Who's he?
former security police, SEPO. He's on sick leave, maybe willing to talk off the record. And Bjork drops a bombshell.
Which is?
Zala is Alexander Zalachenko, a former Soviet GRU agent, a hitman.
A Soviet defector.
In Sweden.
Yeah, defected back in 1976. And here's the kicker. He became a top-secret, high-level asset for SEPO. Sweden's security police were running a Soviet hitman as an asset.
Apparently so. Shielding him, protecting his identity. But after the Soviet Union collapsed, his intelligence value presumably dropped.
And he just pivoted.
Went full-time gangster. Using the protection and connections SEPO maybe still provided, he built this empire in trafficking, weapons, drugs, the very things Svensson was investigating.
Unbelievable. And he had muscle, right? This blonde giant.
Ronald Niederman, Zala's enforcer, described as terrifyingly strong, like he has bones of concrete,
Right.
doesn't seem to feel pain normally, shrugs off hits that would floor anyone else.
Is he the one who attacked Mimi and Paolo Roberto?
He's identified as that guy, yes. Also involved in dealing meth with biker gangs.
Yeah.
Brutal figure.
Okay, so Zala is the hidden crime boss. Niederman is the muscle. How does Bjurman, Salander's guardian, fit into this? It seems like separate worlds.
But they weren't separate. That's the
Oh.
connection. Gierman, the lawyer, Salander's guardian, the guy she tattooed, he was connected to Zala and to the SEPO cover-up. Remember that classified police report about Salander from 1991? The All the Evil incident?
Yeah, the top secret one.
Bjurman had a copy, stamped top secret by order of His Royal Highness. Something a regular lawyer, even a guardian, should absolutely not have been able to get his hands on.
Okay, that's definitely suspicious. So Bjurman knew about Zala's connection to Salander's past.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And Blomkvist figures out that Bjurman had contacted Zala recently. He was panicking because Svensson's investigation was getting too close.
Close to exposing Bjurman's link. Or Zala himself.
Probably both. And Zala, being ruthless, saw Bjurman as a liability and maybe an opportunity.
How so?
He had Niederman killed Bjurman, tied up that loose end. But more than that, it was useful. Zala himself admits that later it provided the perfect way to frame Salander for all three murders.
Frame Salander, using the gun registered to the man he just had killed. It's diabolical.
Exactly. Zala even says it was useful to have a backdoor into SEPO, implying Bjurman might have been feeding him info, and then coldly states about Bjurman, he died and you got the blame. Talking to Salander.
Chilling. So that 1991 report Bjurman had, it wasn't just about Salander's past actions, it was about Zala.
It held the key to the entire cover-up, the full story of all the evil. It needed to stay buried. We find out later, through Salander's old guardian, Palmgren.
Palmgren, right. What did he reveal?
The truth about that night. All the evil wasn't Salander being randomly violent. It was her trying to stop Zalachenko, her father, from beating her mother.
Zalachenko's her father.
Yes. Alexander Zalachenko, the ex-Soviet spy, the crime lord, is Lisbeth Salander's father.
My God, that changes everything.
It explains the intensity of all the evil. She attacked her father to protect her mother. He was wounded, but because he was this protected SEPO asset.
They covered it up, sacrificed the child to protect the asset.
Exactly. They buried the truth, declared her incompetent, and locked her away in St. Stephen's. And it looks like Dr. Teleborian, the psychiatrist, and Gunnar Bjork from SEPO were instrumental in that cover-up, keeping Zala's identity secret and Salander silenced.
The level of betrayal from the state, from psychiatry, from her own father, it's staggering.
It really is. And all this hidden history, this corruption, it eventually explodes into violence in the present day.
Starting with Miriam Wu's kidnapping.
Yeah, Mimi gets snatched by Niederman and his pals, directly links them to the trafficking ring Svensson was exposing. But Paolo Roberto, the boxer,
He goes after them.
he tracks them down, and he fights Niederman. Our sources describe an absolutely brutal fight. Paolo manages to rescue Mimi, but they're both badly hurt.
It just shows how dangerous these people are. Niederman sounds almost inhuman.
Right. And this attack on her friend, for Salander, that's personal. It triggers something.
Guilt.
Probably a mix. Guilt that Mimi was targeted because of her connection to Salander. combined with this fierce need for justice, or maybe vengeance, she decides to go after Zala and Niederman herself.
Armed, presumably.
Oh, yes. She tracks them to this remote farm out in Gossaberga, and she's got a gun, a Colt 1911 government model she acquired. She's not going there to talk.
Okay, the showdown at the farm. What happens?
It's chaotic. She confronts Zalachenko, her father, and Niederman. And then Zala drops another bomb.
What
He
now?
reveals that Niederman, he's his son, too.
Making Niederman Salander's half-brother.
Her half-brother. The sadistic enforcer is family. It's incredibly messed up.
That's beyond words. So what happens in the confrontation?
Violence erupts. Salander attacks Zala with an axe. She wounds him badly in the knee.
An axe. She really doesn't hold back.
Niederman sees his father hurt, and he reacts instantly. He shoots Salander.
Shoot so. Where?
Head and shoulder. With a Browning .22 caliber pistol. And then he buries her.
Buries her alive.
Buries her alive. Thinks he's finished her.
But she survives. How is that even possible?
It seems miraculous. A bullet in her brain, buried. But she digs herself out. The sources point out the irony that small caliber pistol, the .22 Boy Scout pistol, as it's called, probably saved her. A bigger bullet would have killed her instantly.
Incredible resilience. Or just sheer will.
Unbelievable will. She gets back to the house, finds Zala still there, wounded. She actually considers finishing him off.
But she doesn't.
No. She saves her last bullet, thinking she might need it for Niederman. Instead, she finds an old phone, manages to call for help, leaves a message. That's what brings Blomkvist and the police.
So Blomkvist arrives on the scene.
Just as Niederman is trying to make a run for it, Blomkvist actually confronts him.
The journalist. He confronts the blonde giant.
With the very gun Salander had taken earlier, he holds Niederman at gunpoint until the police arrive.
Wow, full circle for that gun. And Salander.
The police find her, barely alive. But before that, Blomkvist goes to her apartment. It looks empty, wiped clean. Her computer, gone.
She covered her tracks.
Expertly. But she left one thing behind for him. Intentionally, it seems.
The 1991 police report.
The 1991 report, the final piece of the puzzle. That's when Blomkvist fully understands. Zala is her father. Bjurman was trapped, Zala's helpless slave, because of that video Salander made. It all clicks into place.
What an absolutely incredible, dark, complicated story.
It really is. We started with what looked like a straightforward, if brutal, triple murder with a clear suspect.
Yeah, the psychotic mass murderer.
But as you peel back the layers, you find this woman who is, yes, deeply damaged and capable of extreme violence, but also brilliant, a survivor, and driven by her own selective morality.
Acting against people she saw as truly evil. Her father, Bjurman, the system that failed her.
Exactly. And you see how everything connects: this decades-old secret police report, the Seppo defector program protecting a monster, the personal vendettas, the trafficking. It all converged into this perfect storm.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? That behind the official stories, the headlines, there are these incredibly complex human truths hidden away.
Deeply hidden. And it really makes you think, doesn't it?
About what specifically?
Well, it leaves us with this kind of provocative thought for you, the listener. How much of what society labels as madness or evil in someone like Salander is actually a response, maybe extreme response, sure, but a response to the real evil and the systemic failure she encountered throughout her life?
And maybe what happens when the very institutions that are supposed to protect us, like Seppo in this case, are actually involved in concealing the truth and enabling the abusers. It's a disturbing question to ponder.